Hello, and welcome to the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Steven Universe crossover episode. This is Phantom Blood, Retold, Chapter 1, by Jorge Fuentes on Fanfiction.net. Steven and Garnet were inside the temple looking for Amethyst, who went alone to find the monster that had infiltrated. Since they were hunting the monster, Amethyst was quickly evaporated and reformed, causing discomfort to Garnet for his recklessness to recover, which led to a deformed reformation after having had a heated discussion with the small crystal gem. In the end, the monster evaporates again to Amethyst and escapes, but Steven and Garnet let him go, and the boy proceeds to pick up Amethyst, and when he picks it up, he noticed something else on the floor. It was a picture that, because of its black and white appearance, was very old. In the photo was her mother, Rose Quartz, Perla, Garnet, and Amethyst, who wore different clothes, and next to them was a group of people she did not know, but if her eyesight did not deceive her, two of them seemed to be dressed for a wedding. A large, semi-corpulent man dressed as the groom, and a pretty blonde woman like the bride. Steven grabbed the amethyst gem and the photo, and together with Garnet, leave the temple to let Amethyst rest, who in a few hours is reformed in its normal state with a different outfit. Garnet, as well as Perla and Steven, accepted the new appearance of their little companion, and in the end, they had a group hug which caused a bit of sorrow to Amethyst, but a taste at the same time. A couple of hours had passed, and Steven had forgotten to ask for the photo, and when he got out, he went to Perla with the intention of telling him about the photo. "Pearl, in the temple when we picked up Amethyst. Underneath it I found this picture in which you were with Mom and a group of people in what I think in a wedding," says Steven, handing the photo to Perla, who took it, and a nostalgic smile formed on his face. "Oh, I remember this day. It happened in the year 1889. It was the wedding of Jonathan and Irina. It was a great wedding which your mother and we were the bridesmaids," says Pearl, a forming sweet after remembering those moments. "Who?" Steven asked, raising an eyebrow at the crystal gem. "Oh, of course you do not know the story," murmured Pearl, holding a hand on her chin thoughtfully. "A story?" Steven asked with stars in his eyes. "Well, it was one of the rarest adventures that your mother and we have had," says Perla with simplicity. "Does it include action?" asking again with more emotion. "Ha! And the big one, although the credit is taken by Jonathan, who did half of the things." "I want to listen to her," Steven shouts, running to the furniture and sitting on it. Pearl lets out a small laugh and follows Steven, sitting on the piece of furniture ready to tell Jonathan Joestar's story. Very well. The story begins like this. England, 1884. In a forest far from the Joestar complex, two young people took a walk inside. The boy was short hair as Jonathan Joestar, firstborn of George Joestar and mother's orphan. The second was his adoptive brother with yellow hair, Dio Brandon, an orphan of mother and father who was welcomed by Jonathan's father. Since Dio had come to Jonathan's life, he was completely desperate to make the life of the blue-haired boy miserable. He was intelligent, calculating, and nefarious, and was responsible for the death of Jonathan's dog. Both carried heavy backpacks that brought camping equipment, and their destination would be the lake which the family came to have fun. It had been a week since the last fight they had between the two young men. The reason? It was when Dio friends had revealed to Jonathan that he had stolen a kiss from his girlfriend Irina, and that she had washed her mouth with water dirty, making Dio angry and hitting her in the face. That was the reason why she had rejected and in a fit of rage attacked Dio, giving him his well-deserved punches, but also received a beating from him. As punishment, his father had locked him in his rooms for the rest of the week. In his punishment, Dio proposed an idea to Jonathan's father to go camping so he could make peace with the teamwork plan. Jonathan was still resentful of Dio's cowardly act to Irina, and they had not spoken to each other for the rest of the week. His camping plan, even though he conveyed to his father, he did not fully convince Jonathan, so he would be alert to anything that the twisted mind of Dio had for them. He gave on the other hand, he was behind Jonathan. The fool of his father swallowed his excuse. The real plan of Dio for Jonathan is to bring him to the forest in a place far from people. Then when it was late, he would kill Jonathan while he slept. Then he would hurt himself with a knife and return to the mansion, where he would give the excuse to Jonathan's father, where he had tried to kill him because he was fed up with him. He thought this deeply, and it was a convincing plan, and this would be his best chance to get rid of Jonathan and get the inheritance from his adoptive father. "We should be close," says Jonathan, drawing Dio out of his macabre thoughts. Yes, Dio agrees, taking the lead, and with Jonathan behind him, a small smile adorns his face. I would not have another opportunity like this, so I had to take advantage of it before it was not worth anything anymore. Suddenly, a loud sound came from the forest, making the earth tremble and scare away the birds that were standing in the trees. "What was that?" Jonathan asked, stopping, as did Dio. "I have no idea, but it has sounded strong and it has made the ground shake," explains Dio, who looked towards the bog but could not see anything from the trees. "It could have been an explosion," Jonathan answered next to Dio. "I'm not sure what that was. Let's continue," ordered Dio, moving forward when another sound was heard leading to the same tremor. "Step again. It must be a big animal like a bear," shouted Jonathan, frightened by whatever was in the forest. "Idiot! The bears like the wolves were extinct of this fauna centuries ago. There is no way that He stopped screaming when the ground began to tremble as if it were a large earthquake. "What?" Jonathan shouted, trying to stand, and while trembling he heard sounds of something approaching great, breaking some trees and driving away more birds. Then he realized that something huge is coming to where they are. From the trees emerges a creature, destroying the nearby trees in which Jonathan and Dio were. Both children gasped in terror at the size of the monster. It was bigger than another earth creature that had seen history. The appearance of the creature was similar to a lion, but with a thick white mane that covered all its back. It did not have eyes and had a huge snout that could swallow a person with sharp teeth in it. The most remarkable feature of the monster was a kind of brown gem embedded in his chest that combined with the color of the creature. Jonathan wanted to scream, but Dio quickly covered his mouth with his hand, and when he saw it in his eyes, he noticed the same terror that Jonathan had. Dio was scared, but as he looked at the creature, he noticed that it was oriented through the sound, so when Jonathan wanted to scream, he covered his mouth with great speed. "The creature cannot see us. It would be best to leave here slowly," Dio whispers to Jonathan, who was shaking. Both youngsters retreat slowly, without taking their eyes off the monster, who was trying to find them through the hearing. Step by step, they step delicately on the grass that surrounds them, since the slightest sound could be their end. The sound of a breaking branch alerts the monster, who looks at the young people who look down and see that Dio was the one that stepped on the branch. The monster roars wildly toward the two children and raising its front legs as if it were a real bear. "Run, Jojo!" screams Dio, who next to his begin to flee from the wild creature who began to persecute them. Both children run screaming for their lives while the monster pursues them. Seconds later, both look back and see that the monster is reaching them, and in an attempt to catch them, hits his head on the ground near the two, generating an explosion that sends them to fly. Dio crashes his nose against a tree and falls from 2 meters off the ground, leaving him unconscious. Jonathan, on the other hand, crashed in the leaves of the tree and slowly descended until he was hung by one of his branches caught in his shirt, making scream of pain, calling the attention of the monster, who approaches Jonathan growling. "No! Please, someone help me!" Jonathan yells for help, trying to take care of the branch, but it is stuck. "Dio, help!" She cries with tears in her eyes, asking for help, but Dio does not respond to her calls. No one else who tries to save him from his Trafago destiny starts screaming loudly before the creature tries to eat it. But suddenly the monster roars with pain, raising its front legs and turning its back on Jonathan, who immediately sees a kind of spear embedded in his back. Then he sees a kind of whip winding up in his hind legs, forcing them to come together, causing the creature to lose balance, causing it to fall to the ground. Jonathan looks astonished without knowing what is happening, and suddenly a human figure comes out among the trees, and Jojo's surprise hits the creature with what appears to be two gauntlets with tremendous force that makes the creature explode in a cloud of comful smoke by magic. Good job, team! Jojo hears a naughty voice coming from the cloud of smoke, and from there 3 women of peculiar aspect come out. The youngest was purple skinned and her hair was white and messy, wearing a cap and train driver's attire. It was a good idea to tie it to your feet with your whip, allowing Garnet to give the final blow, says a thin voice of a middle one who had white skin, blue eyes, pointed nose, and a white wig that represented the aristocrats of the last century. He wore a light blue English Revolutionary soldier outfit and white pants with black boots. With this monster in 3, the area is free of them, says a calm voice, and is the high of the group with black hair, cube-shaped, brown skin, and circular lenses. She is wearing the same suit as the other, but it was crimson with a black-blue cloak covering her shoulders. The tall one carried a huge bubble, which contained the gem of the monster that disappeared a while ago, and with a quick touch is without a trace. Jonathan has no way of describing the scene that saw his eyes, but returns to reality when he hears the branch that is on top of him breaking in two, making him fall. Jonathan screams again, about to fall on the ground, when a huge figure catches him in the air and lands elegantly on the ground. Everything is fine. You can open your eyes, says a calm and beautiful voice. Jojo opens her eyes and sees a beautiful woman with a huge curly pink hair holding it in both arms. Her skin color was normal, and she wore a beautiful wedding dress with a cutout of a star in her stomach, and in her stomach is a gem, pink embedded. "Do you feel good, young?" asks the woman in pink, and in response receives a strong hug from Jonathan, who is sobbing on his shoulder. "Thank you very much," says Jonathan, turning his face away from the woman's man with his face wrapped in tears and his face flushed. "Do not cry, you are safe," says the smiling woman, wiping Jonathan's tears. "Dio!" Jojo screams and moves away quickly and goes to her adoptive brother, who is unconscious on the floor with 2 torrents of blood coming out of his nose. "They are human," says Garnet, approaching the other 2 with the woman in pink, who goes to Jonathan to help him. "Dio answered me." Jonathan shakes Jonathan's body, fearing the worst, but Dio regains consciousness by opening his eyes in a flash. "It hurts," sighs Dio, taking his hand in his nose. "Oh, Dio, thank God you're fine," says Jonathan, embracing Dio, who tries to get rid of him. "You are his friend?" asks the woman in pink to Jojo, who denies. "No, he is my adoptive brother. His name is Dio, and he is hurt," explains Jonathan, looking at the woman in pink. "Let me help with that," says the woman in pink, kneeling in front of Dio and tilting her head up with her hands. "What you do to me?" growls with pain when he sees the face of the woman and sees how tears come from his eyes. 2 tears fell on his face, and that was enough for Dio to stop feeling pain in his face. "Ready." Dio passes his hand across his face without feeling any pain on his face or head, quickly away from Jonathan and the 4 strange women. "Wow, easy, friend," says the purple girl to the blonde, who is still impacted. "You!" points to the woman with the huge pink hair. "What kind of magic did you use to heal me?" demanded Dio. "Did you heal Dio's face with your tears? Are they witches?" asked Jonathan nervously to the women, who in response released a small laugh. "No, children. My name is Rose Quartz, and we are crystal gems." And that was Chapter 1 of Phantom Blood Retold. Please like and subscribe to my channel.